Hello everyone and welcome to Tommy Talks Arsenal, where you've guessed it, Tommy talks Arsenal, Fantasy Premier League and everything in between. Thank you for joining me, I hope you enjoy the show, and without further ado, let's go! On today's show, I'll run through the Arsenal assets of interest, show some data from Drafthound before reviewing a couple of drafts. Now let's get to it. We'll start with the Arsenal midfielders. Okay, let's start by talking about Bukayo Saka. Coming in at just 8.5 million, he's a popular pick with over 50% ownership already. Last season he scored 14 league goals and supplied 12 assists, finishing the campaign with 202 points. Nailed in on penalties, he's my favourite asset from Arsenal. This pre-season he's hit the ground running, returning 2 goals and 2 assists in our opening 4 matches. Passing the eye test, he's advanced and dangerous. In my opinion, his overperformance last season is no cause for concern. With an excellent set of fixtures, he's secure in my team for game week 1. Now let's have a look at the Arsenal captain, the Disney Prince and my wife's favourite player, Martin Odegaard. Our top scoring player last season with 212 points. He was captain fantastic and led by example, contributing 15 goals and 8 assists. 8.5 million and selected by 20% of managers, he has work to do to justify his price tag. When assessing the data, there was a clear overperformance. Similar to peak Lampard, Odegaard was very advanced last season, arriving in the box and happy to pull the trigger. His chemistry with Saka was extremely dangerous, with an almost telepathic understanding. This season I expect the magic to continue, but with the forward-thinking Havertz now a part of the mix, Odegaard may be required to sit a bit deeper. It's something to consider, and as a result he's a wait-and-see FPL option, regardless of nailedness and set-piece duties. Moving on, let's take a look at our Brazilian speed merchant, Gabriel Martinelli. An exciting player and world-class talent, destined for the top, Martinelli comes in at the £8 million price point. Last season he turned heads, delivering 198 points with 15 goals and 9 assists. When Trossard arrived in January, it raised concerns about rotation. Martinelli still started 34 times before his season was ended by injury. A key player for Arsenal, his work off the ball often goes unnoticed. In my opinion, he's first choice on the left, and rotation worries are unfounded, especially early in the season. We might see managed minutes, but his explosive potential makes him a player of interest and part of my favourite 3. With just 13% ownership, he's an interesting option for game week 1. Could this be the year that he breaks the 200 point barrier? Moving out of midfield and into attack, it's time to take a look at Gabriel Jesus. Last season's bandwagon for game week 1, there won't be a repeat of his 8% ownership this time around. 11 goals and 7 assists in a season disrupted by injury. Jesus is a consistent underperformer with regards to XG. A tireless runner, his work for the team is incredibly important, creating space for those around him. At the 8 million price point and with excellent fixtures, he's my favourite partner for Haaland in attack. With 31% ownership, managers will hope that he hits the ground running. His potential is huge. This might be the season that he delivers. My third best option from Arsenal, I'm happy to go with Gabi Jesus. Time to look at some attacking data. The Arsenal hotshots for game week 1 are Jesus 45%, Saka 35%, Martinelli 35%, Havertz 31%, and Odegaard at 29%. Nketiah also features at 39%, but with uncertainty surrounding his and Havertz's minutes, I haven't included them as assets to consider. Drafthound give Arsenal a 49% chance of scoring 2 or more goals against Forest. It's easy to see why we're considering their players for game week 1. Another route to points come from assists. Saka leads the way, given a 29% chance of returning, followed by Odegaard 27%, Martinelli 25% and Jesus also at 25%. Smith Rowe also features at 27%, but similar to Nketiah, his expected minutes are far from certain and he is a definite avoid come game week 1. To summarise, Saka is my favourite Arsenal asset. 202 points last season, including 25 goal involvements. He's nailed in on penalties and predicted to score 16.2 points over the first 3 game weeks, including 5.6 against Forest. Looking down the list, and after his impressive season scoring 212 points with 22 goal involvements, Drafthound predict 15.8 points for Odegaard over the first 3 game weeks. He's a decent option, but not a part of my favoured 3. Hot on his heels is the boy from Brazil, Gabriel Martinelli. With 198 points and 20 goal involvements last season, could this be the year he breaks the 200 point barrier? He's second on my list as favourite Arsenal assets and makes my first draft. 17 goal involvements and 125 points in a season disrupted by injury. Drafthound predict 14.4 points for Gabriel Jesus, and he takes his place as my third Arsenal asset. Well, there we go. We've had a look at the attacking and midfield options from Arsenal, including my top 3 assets, Saka, Jesus and Martinelli. Not everyone's going to want to go heavy on attack, so we'd better have a look at the defensive options too. So, let's go and have a look at the defenders. First on the list is Aaron Ramsdale, a £5 million player this season. The Arsenal stopper returned 143 points last season, keeping 14 clean sheets and averaging 2.47 saves per game. With no risk of rotation, he's a decent option to cover the Gunners' defence. In pre-season, Arsenal have conceded 6 goals in their first 4 fixtures, keeping 1 clean sheet. The highest owned goalie in the game, with 23% ownership, expectations will be raised for Forest at home in game week 1. Now let's have a look at the defenders, starting on the right with Benjamin White. The most expensive Arsenal defender at 5.5 million, White returned 156 points last season, keeping 15 clean sheets, scoring 2 goals and supplying 5 assists. A silky fullback with attacking potential, White built a good relationship with Saka last season and secured his position in the team. Rotation worries are still something to be aware of, with both Timber and Tomiyasu fighting for minutes. Against easier opposition and following Champions League football, it's unclear how Arteta will rotate his options. Overpriced at 5.5 million, I wouldn't consider White an FPL option. He's the template pick on Twitter. It's time to talk about Gabriel. An ever-present for Arsenal last season, the Brazilian defender feels underpriced at just £5 million this time around. 143 points and 3 league goals from an XG of over 5. Gabriel is a menace from set pieces, the occasional haul is certainly in his locker. With ownership sitting at 19%, it's easy to see why he's a popular option. Although seemingly nailed, Gabriel does make mistakes, and with Kivior looking an able deputy, there's always a chance he could lose his place. That being said, he's still my favourite Arsenal defender. Great early fixtures against teams that struggle from set pieces, an early haul wouldn't surprise me. A great option for game week 1. Moving on, let's take a look at his partner at the back, the young Frenchman, William Saliba. After biding his time on multiple loans, the 22-year-old centre-back was a crucial part of the Arsenal success last season. A back injury curtailed his involvement, but he still returned 117 points, scored 2 goals and supplied 1 assist in the league. Priced at £5 million, Saliba is an interesting FPL option, and after Gabriel, my second favourite asset in defence. With Rob Holding as his deputy, or potentially White or Timber, I expect a safe string of starts for Saliba in the league. Sitting in 14.8 of managers' squads, he's a viable and popular asset. So to summarise, Ramsdale, 143 points, 14 clean sheets, a guaranteed starter, my favourite goalkeeper for 5 million or less. He's predicted to score 10.1 points over the opening 3 game weeks. Against Forest in game week 1, Arsenal are given a 53% chance of keeping a clean sheet. You could do a lot worse than starting with Ramsdale, and he's a popular pick with 24% ownership. Next, we've got the template pick on Twitter, Gabriel. He scored 146 points last season, recording 14 clean sheets. He also scored 3 goals in the league from an XG of 5.72 and always looks dangerous from corners. He's predicted to score 12.6 points over the opening 3 fixtures, and he's my number 1 defender from the Arsenal guys. Saliba finished last season with 117 points and 11 clean sheets in 27 league games. He's an interesting option at the £5 million price point. Predicted to score 11.3 points over the opening 3 game weeks, he's my second favourite Arsenal defender. Overpriced at 5.5 million, White returned 156 points last season, keeping 9 clean sheets, assisting 5 times and scoring 2 goals. At risk of rotation, he's predicted to score 10 points over the opening 3 fixtures. Behind Gabriel, Saliba and Ramsdale, White is my 4th choice from the Arsenal defenders. Okay, let's have a look at my first draft. Setting up in a 3-5-2 formation, I have Onana in goal, Estupiñán, Stones and Chilwell in defence, Mitoma, Rashford, Bruno, Martinelli and Saka in midfield, with Jesus and Haaland up front. Onana makes the team for United coverage. I like their home fixture, and at 0.5 million cheaper than Shaw, I'm happy with his price point. Estupiñán vs Luton looks a lovely fixture with 50% ownership. I'm not going to bet against him. Hopefully we can get an attacking return, maybe a defensive return, and start the season off strongly. Stones makes the team for City coverage. He's potentially playing out of position. We might see some attacking returns, although Pep Roulette is always a worry. He's still my favourite asset from City in defence. I think he's the most secure for starts, so that's why I'm going with him. Moving early on Chilwell, he's an attacking threat and saves me a potential transfer in game week 3 when the Chelsea fixtures look a lot better. Obviously he's an interesting player, really like him, have history with him getting me some good points, so hopefully he hits the ground running. And yeah, that's me for defence. My front 7 look really exciting. Saka and Martinelli are dangerous assets with lovely opening fixtures. The same applies to Rashford and Bruno. I'm very happy with the double up in midfield. Mitoma joins them and covers the Brighton attack. He looks the safest asset to own. Hopefully he'll find some early season form. Other options at his price point are Eze or Mbeumo, maybe even Mudryk, but I'm currently on Mitoma. No surprise to see Haaland in attack. He'll be almost perma-captain early doors. He was the first name on my team sheet. I'm sure you all own him too. Jesus joins him and the Forest fixture looks prime for points game week 1. If Watkins, Wilson and Nkunku etc. hit some early season form, I can easily switch, so Jesus at the £8 million price point, he covers a lot of bases and I'm happy to put him in my team. On the bench I have Areola, Baldock, Bayer and Pebble. I'm not expecting much from any of these guys. Early in the season I hope they won't be required. And that's my first draft. I hope you liked it. Okay then everybody, here's an alternative draft that I drew up. It's a bit interesting, something that I haven't seen before and hopefully you'll like it. It's still set up in the 3-5-2 formation with Ramsdale in goal this time over Onana. We've got Estupiñán, Gabriel and TAA in defence, so we've got the premium asset TAA in defence for game week 2. We have Mbeumo, Saka, Fernandes, Mitoma and Rashford in midfield, so quite a stacked midfield still. Plenty of options there for goals, I like it. Mbeumo comes in, interesting player, hopefully he'll be on penalties for Brentford this season. One to keep an eye on in pre-season, and yeah, he seems quite a popular pick, doesn't he? So no problems having him come in at all instead of Martinelli. But this is where it gets really interesting. Up front, I've gone with both Haaland and Alvarez. Yep, it's double City attack. A bit adventurous, a little bit risky, but with the fixtures that Man City have got in the opening few weeks, maybe we're missing a trick by not doubling up. I mean, Foden's an option, but Alvarez, pound for pound, he's a pretty good value asset. Now, we've got the double Arsenal defence, as I said earlier, so it's an analytic crowd pick, really popular. Ramsdale and Gabriel are my favourite 2 options from Arsenal if I'm going to use this team. and there's still TAA for the Bournemouth fixture in game week 2. Believe it or not, I've also got 1 million in the bank, so if I want to upgrade, say, an Alvarez to an Nkunku, I've got the money for it. I've got money to upgrade a Mitoma or a Mbeumo to a Sterling to a Foden. There's money in the bank to play around with, so I really like this draft. It's predicted to score 61 points, the same as my first draft, so nothing really changes there, but obviously we've got the premium asset in defence, double Arsenal defence instead of double midfield, and those are the main changes, obviously, and Alvarez. I hope you liked it. I hope it's something different that you haven't seen before, something to consider, a bit of a risky draft, but certainly not one that I've seen floating around in the Twitter sphere, so I thought I'd do something a little bit different for you. Thanks for staying with me, and I hope you enjoyed the show.